Now, before I dive into this review properly, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the hard work and genius PR campaign of the Warner Brothers marketing department. You guys really pulled off a miracle with this one, successfully duping all of us, including me, into believing that Barbie was going to be just another colorful, lighthearted, easygoing family comedy with some cheeky, self-aware humor, ironic meta-gags, and probably capped off with a blandly inoffensive female empowerment message about girls learning the value of their own potential. What none of us expected was 114 minutes of spiteful, bitter, mean-spirited, borderline unhinged hatred of men and everything even vaguely associated with them. Barbie is like the deformed, mutated rage child of Captain Marvel, Ghostbusters 2016, and She-Hulk, so I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it. I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing. It is pure brain cancer in movie form, and I was genuinely shocked by the sheer undisguised contempt this film has towards 50% of the human population. Much in this film was one of the most miserable, demoralizing, unpleasant experiences I've ever had as a movie critic, and genuinely made me question where our society is heading. But the review must be done, and you know what Jack Burton always says at a time like this? Oh, Jack always says, what the hell? The movie begins with a rip-off homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey, where little girls discover Barbie for the first time and gleefully cast off their boring and oppressive baby dolls in an orgy of violence and destruction. And if the visual metaphor of little girls happily destroying the embodiment of motherhood to focus their lives instead on a shallow and materialistic piece of consumerist trash is lost on you, then I don't know what to say, man. But you're probably the target audience for this movie anyway. The film explains that all the Barbie and Ken dolls live together in Barbie Land, a kind of magical counterpart to the real world, which is portrayed as a peaceful feminist utopia where all the important jobs are done by the Barbies and the Kens just kind of exist. They got no inherent value, they contribute nothing, they have no power or say in how their society is run, and they're basically looked down on as a bit silly and irrelevant by the Barbies. Oh my goodness, what could the writers possibly be trying to tell us about their views on men anyway? This is where we meet stereotype typical Barbie, who's busy living her best life, partying with her friends, and treating her boyfriend's stereotypical Ken like absolute dog, who's the hero of this thing again. Anyway, things suddenly change when Barbie starts experiencing emotional changes and physical flaws like flat feet and cellulites. See, because Barbie world is a reflection of the real world, the Barbies' appearances change depending on how their real-life owner plays with them. Wait, what? Do you have any idea how many Barbie dolls must get broken or thrown in trash compactors or set on fire or eaten by family pets every single day? Then the place would look like the Omaha Beach scene from Saving Private Ryan. At any moment, Barbies could suddenly get torn apart or melted or crushed right in front of their friends' eyes. Jesus, that's like a horrific existential nightmare. But I guess you're not supposed to think too much about that. Internal consistency in a movie like Barbie is rarer than a mainstream media outlet willing to give this movie an honest review. So the only solution is for Barbie to journey into the real world, find the girl who plays with her, and get her to be happy again. And Ken tags along for the ride because he's got nothing better to do than simp for Barbie. Unfortunately, the real world turns out to be an oppressive patriarchal hellscape that's utterly dominated by men. Like, one guy literally walks up to Barbie and slaps her in the ass in the middle of a crowded boardwalk in broad daylight in front of her boyfriends. Now you might think that this would afford the writers a chance to demonstrate a little bit of nuance in their storytelling, maybe portray the real world as both good and bad in sharp contrast to the simplistic, idyllic innocence of Barbie worlds, kind of like an Enchanted, where the protagonist gets taken out of her cartoon homeworld and has to learn to navigate the complexities and difficulties of real life, ultimately growing and maturing as a person along the way. But then again, that movie actually had a likable main character, a decent story, and wasn't written by people who despised half the human population. But nope, the real world and all the men in it are shown to be universally, irredeemably horrible, because of course they are. Anyway, Barbie eventually finds the kid who plays with her, who turns out to be a communist activist feminist that I think the movie wants us to empathize with. But me, for the life of me, I could not tell you why Ken, on the other hand, discovers the patriarchy is very much to his liking, mainly because for the first time in his entire life, people actually showing basic respect and human decency. You know, sometimes I get the impression this film isn't saying what the filmmakers think it's saying, so when Barbie eventually returns to Barbie Land, she discovers to her horror that Ken's bro brought the patriarchy back with him and turned the whole place into a giant frat party in the space of like a day, finally a plot event. I can get behind. It's kind of funny though, because it did make me question how the supposedly intelligent, empowered, and self-confident Barbies were so easily subjugated by Ken and the others. This is the kind of awkward little paradox that keeps coming up when you try to constantly portray women as strong, empowered, infallible, kick-ass girl bosses who can do anything and beat anyone, but you also need them to be helpless, suppressed victims of male domination. You can't have your cake and eat it. Not to worry though, because Barbie uses her newfound powers of feminism to free the other Barbies from the evil Ken's oppression. And because they're all dumb, as she's able to trick them into fighting each other until eventually they just give up and surrender. Now, you might think that after all these wild swings between male and female domination, the logical way forward would be for Barbie Land to adopt a more equal system where both sides are given power and respect, perhaps teaching the audience that for all our differences, men and women are both pretty awesome, and maybe we do well to work together instead of unfairly elevating one group above the other. But nope, the Barbies go right back to being in charge of everything again, and the Kens slide back into a meaningless, depressing existence of being irrelevant second-class citizens, and that I think is supposed to be a happy ending. Honestly, I'm struggling to find the right words to properly express just how monumentally awful this film is. It's like a serial killer dressed in a Pikachu outfit. Superficially, it might look bright and cheerful and cute, but beneath the appealing facade, there's something genuinely horrible and sinister. This is a movie made by people who utterly despise men and masculinity, or any kind of traditional gender roles of any kind, and make absolutely no attempt to hide it. So you're a woman who wants to be a mother or a homemaker, screw you fascists. You're a man who wants to be assertive, ambitious, confident, and successful. Well, that clearly makes you a misogynist. Don't you know it's so divisive and unnecessary? It's like they had a perfect opportunity to unify audiences behind a simple message of reconciliation and equal opportunity, but they just couldn't help themselves. They were still filled with rage and hatred and bitterness that it just had to come spewing out onto the screen. As far as this film's concerned, women are simple, amazing, and men and everything they do are utterly irredeemably. They might be grudgingly tolerated provided they play by the rules, but they have no inherent value and can never be trusted with any kind of power or responsibility. And the only way to guarantee a peaceful and harmonious society is for women to be put in charge of everything and meant to be docile, powerless servants who exist only to please them. Not a great plan. Wow, what an inspiring message for impressionable young girls. The thing is, none of this would have been quite so insidious if the marketing hadn't done everything in its power to keep it a secret. I mean, for all their faults, She-Hulk, Ghostbusters 2016, and Captain Marvel all wore their feminist hearts on their sleeves. You knew exactly what you were getting into when you went to see them. But Barbie really is a wolf in sheep's clothing, tricking people into watching it by promising one thing and delivering something very different. And I guess that's the thing that really struck me about this film. A lot of parents will have been duped into taking their daughters along to watch this movie, probably expecting the kind of breezy, colorful, family-friendly movie that was advertised, only to find themselves confronted with this spiteful bit, mean-spirited pile of misandrous dog insteads. And I can't help but wonder how many future man-hating psychopaths are going to be created because of this film. It's not very often I say this in my reviews, but if you're a parent and you're thinking about taking your kids along to see Barbie, then the drinker recommends you skip this one and do literally anything else with them. Believe me, you'll thank me later anyway. That's all I've got for today. Go away now.